Hello there, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I will try to create a decent model by only using the things included in this starter kit. Is it even possible? Let's find out. I chose the Hella M for Sherman D-Day starter kit for this. A quick overview of what is included. Simple rubber band tracks, a total of 4 sprues, the paints, metallic, olive green and black, some poly cement, a medium-sized brush, and the instructions with some decals. One thing not included but obviously necessary is a knife. This knife and tap water will be the only additions I am trying to use. I begin by removing all needed parts from their sprue and doing some basic cleanup. This is my first time trying this poly cement. A big blob came out and I had to try and spread it over the other parts. The glue does not set that fast and some tweezers would have already been helpful. While waiting for the first parts to dry, I can begin with the lower hull. Up until this point my workflow wasn't that different from usual, other than using a more tricky glue. By scraping the blade over the edges, I can smooth everything out without the need for any sandpaper. The cleanup is minimal, since the kit has a really good quality. There weren't any issues fitting the parts together, and the level of detail is great for a starter kit in 1:72 scale. Building this model quickly reminded me of my first model kits. Having a large collection of tools is nice, but you can get a lot done with even the most basic tools, without spending a lot of money. There is a tiny seam line on all the road wheels. Without the sandpaper it will be more challenging but not impossible to remove it. The running gear was the part that took the longest. All the cleanup without sanding sticks took more time than I anticipated. But with all components cleaned and ready, I can assemble the running gear. This is then repeated 5 times. Then they were all attached to the lower hull. The guiding pins will ensure a correct spacing between them. The fact that the glue doesn't immediately bond the parts together made this a little bit more difficult. If you work precisely, the wheels should even stay movable. Next is the upper hull. Until now the parts were still big enough to handle without tweezers, but that is about to change. Small parts like this are difficult enough with regular tools, so I guess this is where the real challenge begins. There were a lot more small parts included than I expected. For the fine-tuning and positioning, I used my knife blade to be more precise. It was easier to apply a bigger drop of glue onto the surface and then press the tools into it. I just hope that the paint will cover the glue mess later. As you can see, even my camera was struggling to get a clear shot of what I'm doing. I was kind of an idiot and managed to attach most of the tools out of frame, so this is the best footage you can get. I'm not really used to building tanks at this scale. The front plate had these add-on armor pieces in front of the hatches. The front plate is then attached to the upper hull. There were still some details missing here, like the headlights and the protection cages. With the body basically finished, I can take a look at the turret. It's a good thing that the barrel is made from one piece in this scale. The mantlet is then glued to the turret. If you work careful, the gun should even stay movable. Normally I would apply a cast texture over the turret, but that's not possible this time. A few details later and the construction part is finished. Up until now there weren't any major difficulties. Yes, having sanding sticks and a pair of tweezers would have been better, but I think the kit looks pretty good so far. The difficult parts will come next. I only have the included acrylics, this simple brush and some tap water to give the model an even coat of olive green. To thin the paint I am adding some tap water. That way I hope to leave fewer brush strokes later. I work in thin layers, focusing on small sections at a time. This will take more time but should provide a more even coat. The second layer already looks much better. I really like the quality of this color, and there is a lot more included than you would need for this kit. And with the third I can't see the plastic from underneath anymore. There are still some brush marks visible, but I don't think I am good enough at brush painting to avoid them. That's the reason why I have brought an airbrush after all. I use black on the road wheels. Keeping the wheels movable makes this process a lot easier. For the machine gun I thought about using the metallic color. But the color covered so badly that I decided against it. I switched to black instead. This is the tank after I finished the painting. The process went better than expected, but I would still use an airbrush every time over brush painting. There are no weathering products included, obviously, but that doesn't mean I can't try to make my own. I'm mixing a small amount of black paint with tap water to make my own black wash. This mix is then applied over the entire tank. The more details a certain area has, the more wash I am adding. This way I hope to make up for the otherwise monotone olive green. I let the wash dry for 24 hours before applying the decals. Here I wish I had tweezers yet again. The smaller the decal, the more difficulties I had. I used my hobby knife yet again to fine-tune the position. There were many decals to apply. The good thing was that for most of them the surface was flat, since I wasn't allowed to use any decal solution or even a cotton swab to press the decals in place. I think the decals and the DIY wash made a huge difference in the overall look. There's nothing I can do about the glossy look of the decals sadly, since I can't use a clear varnish. This also means there's no protection for the decals. I did no work on the tracks, since they were already black, and I have no way of adding any rust effects with the given materials. But here comes the part where the challenge may become impossible. The tracks only work with superglue, and I only have poly cement. I was hoping that by using a lot of glue, it would work kind of like hot glue, but that wasn't the case. There was no way I could make this glue work with the rubber tracks, and it even started to melt the paint away. So I guess this is the point where the challenge kind of failed. I don't want to leave the tank without tracks, but I also don't want to ruin the tank with the poly glue, so I decided to use super glue for this step. And using the correct glue actually works, who would have thought? And with the tracks finished, it is time for the final result. This build was definitely a challenge in itself. The construction was fairly easy, but painting and aging definitely had its challenges. Do you think using superglue made this challenge fail? Let me know in the comments. Overall, I am surprised how good the kit looks out of the box. Sadly, the lack of brown color made adding the accessories a lot less impactful. Nonetheless, this is a decent starter kit for someone who wants to get into scale modeling. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment and subscribe for more content like this. Have a nice week and see you next time.